They were designed to meet unmet needs for women, right? And so part of that is complications and being concerned about complications. So designing an implant that addresses those in a way that minimizes inflammation, minimizes, feels more natural, moves more natural. That's the second part, is women's, how it feels for them, right? Knowing that that it feels like themselves, part of their own tissue, part of their body. And so the way the gel and the shell are manufactured together as one unit, they behave that way, and they move that way like natural tissue. You do have the ability to put it on top of the muscle because of the unique surface. But also what for me is most important, I hear from women, is that it feels like their natural tissue. And it feels like them, and they forget they have implants.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business. And today is no exception. Today in the studio I have Roz Cole-Dincelli from Motiva, and I've known Roz for at least 142 years. So welcome to the program. You drove down from Santa Barbara. Thank you so much. I've been trying to get her on this program for years, literally years. And in the meantime, she's changed companies, as you're going to hear. So welcome, Roz. How was your drive down?
Thank you, Grant. It was, Los Angeles, but not bad. Thank you for having me. I am honored to be here and excited to see you.
Great, same. So let's go to the beginning. Where were you born?
Sonoma County, California.
Great.
So the Russian River area.
Oh yeah, I know it well. I'm going there tomorrow.
Winery. Oh, okay.
I'm going to Santa Rosa tomorrow.
Nice.
And I'll be driving to Sonoma and having lunch there.
Beautiful.
So that's fantastic. And where'd you go to school?
UC Santa Barbara.
So you're a gaucho also. You're the second gaucho on the program today, actually the third. Do you know I went to UC Santa Barbara for one semester?
I think we did discuss it at some point, yes.
I was 15 and a half years old.
Doogie Howser?
Not quite, but I was between my junior and senior year in high school.
Nice.
Yeah, I was a short-term gaucho.
Wow, go
I
Gauchos.
surfed and rode my skateboard and grew my hair longer than yours.
That's what you do there. Bike, surf, and skate.
So what did you major in at UCSB?
Actually, interestingly, it was communications and with an emphasis in marketing. So my initial intent was to go into marketing, market research, that area.
Interesting. And when you graduated, what was your first position, or did you do more education? What happened after the...
So no, I graduated and most of my friends were moving out to different areas to get jobs, and I wanted to stay in Santa Barbara. And so I had been working at a hotel, and there was a consultant that came in all the time, a plastic surgeon that was a regular customer. And he asked me what I was doing, and he said, well, why don't you apply at this place called McGann Medical? Like, that's an up-and-coming company, and I work with them all the time, and I think you'd be great there. And I was like, okay, sounds great. And there was a research position, and I assumed it was kind of market research, but it was actually medical research, and for breast implants. And so, I was 21, 22, sure, why not? So I went in and met with them, and they hired me. And
did you interview with Don McGann?
I didn't interview with him, but I definitely saw him after.
Sure.
But yeah, so it was an unexpected start.
Wow, I didn't know that. So you started at McGann.
Yes.
Okay, and were you doing research?
Yeah. So I was
Tell
working
us about that.
So it was right after I started in 2001. So it was not too far after all the moratorium stuff, and the gel implants were not on the market at the time. So all the companies had to do big studies, clinical studies to study the long-term effects. So I worked on their 410 study at the time, and their round Natrel, I guess now it is, Natrel implant.
Yeah, they had the round BioCell.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
with Don. That's before it was acquired.
Yeah.
Right,
And
okay.
Then became Inamed, and I was still there during Inamed. I was there for a couple years, and then I got a call from Mentor, some managers there, and asked if I wanted to come over and run their studies. And
So you went from McGann or Inamed over to Mentor. Were you working for Dennis then? Was Dennis still there?
Dennis was still there. Yes. It was kind of nearing the end of his term, but he was still there. And yes, it was there right across the lemon grove, as we said, in Santa Barbara from each other. And so I went over there and worked on their studies as well. So we're in the middle of going through the FDA, submissions. Mentor had acquired a botulinum toxin that I worked on and did the BLA. So we were trying to bring, a toxin competitor to Botox to the market. And was there for 9 years, actually building that through the first FDA panel in 2006.
Wow, you were at Mentor for 9 years. So then after Dennis left, you were working with
Josh.
Yeah, I just saw a post by Josh the other day.
Yeah.
Okay, so after Mentor with Josh, wow, still in the breast implant business.
Still there.
Still in Santa Barbara.
Yes, still there.
And then where'd you go?
I had just gotten married and starting to think about having a family, and I was approached by the CEO of a startup who was starting up another breast implant company.
Yes.
And he was an ex-executive from Inamed that had transitioned out when Allergan came in. And so he asked if I wanted to come get another breast implant approved in the U.S. And I was like, well, I'm, kind of starting my family. I got married. That seems like a lot of work, but okay, let's try it. His vision was, he had a plan, and it was to really disrupt the market in the U.S. and bring something new, because it had been a long time with Mentor and Allergan.
And would that person be Hanny?
That person would be Hanny.
And so off you went to Sientra.
Yeah, employee number 20, and from the beginning, built up the data, the submissions, FDA, submitting, going to a panel, and working with you as one of our investigators in the trial. Thank you, and then going through the launch and commercialization in the U.S.
Well, before there was Sientra, there was Silamed. And I was the lead investigator for Silamed before Sientra even existed.
I know, based in Dallas, right?
Well, I can't go into that right now, but then the implants, as you know, came up from Brazil.
Yes,
and we were doing that to get them FDA approved and so forth.
Yes.
And we did the Dancing Bear study and a number of studies, and then Hanny acquired the distribution rights of Sientra and so forth, and then named it Sientra, or did the raise. Those were exciting times.
Yeah.
And the FDA punctuated them very well for us.
Yes.
And, how long were you there at Sientra?
11 years.
So Hanny had already left.
Hanny departed. One of our board members stepped in as the CEO, Jeff Nugent.
Yep.
And I was still there. We were going through a lot of this, also the next FDA panel, it was 2018, I think, with challenges related to breast implants and systemic symptoms. All again, it was kind of like...
That's the FDA hearings that I was at and testified.
Yes,
and you were
did.
Right there in the room.
Yeah.
I remember walking by you to testify to the FDA.
Yes. Yeah, we were up front.
2018.
Yes, a long line of people to testify. It was quite an experience, and I, got to present on behalf of the company and, why there was an important need for these products, but also that the companies want to work with the patients and the surgeons, and so it was an interesting experience. I have definitely developed a good relationship with FDA from that point on, and they were pretty supportive. But yeah, so I was there. We did that. Worked with you a bit. Launched publications.
Did you go directly from Sientra to Motiva? So
yes.
We're going to get to that in a moment. So Jeff became the CEO for a while, and then he was no longer the CEO.
Right.
And then we got a new CEO.
Right. And I had departed about when Jeff was still there and departing right when I departed. So So I know obviously the next CEO, but I was not a part of it at that point.
So then off you go to Motiva. And what's your position in Motiva? I know you're executive.
Senior, I was as a senior vice president for clinical and medical, and then so clinical affairs, medical affairs, publications, and podium and those things, clinical the studies, and then regulatory. So working with FDA and other.
Wait, you're managing all that and the KOLs and podium and the meetings and everything?
Well, there's a lot, yeah, but with a lot of people. It takes a village, right?
Exactly. I'm like, how does she do it?
No, it's evolved to that, but no, a lot of the team that worked together. It's kind of a small world, right? On who's in the business and who has good experience and
so.
The relationships, right, that you build and maintain. And so, working a lot with came in to get the FDA approval was the ultimate goal, because it is, as you know, it's the highest barrier to entry is the U.S. FDA, and it's really hard for breast implants to get into the U.S. And so that's what we did, and did it. And then now, it's now onto a whole other world of products that are globally available but not in the U.S.
So before we get to that, let's deal with the breast implants, the Motiva breast implants, recently approved, correct? Mm-hmm. So what are the unique features of the Motiva breast implant that our listeners, our audience would not know about?
Sure. I think, I would say, I would go back to what our founder, Juan Jose Chacon, talks about, is that they were designed to meet unmet needs for women, right? And so part of that is complications and being concerned about complications. So designing an implant that addresses those in a way that minimizes inflammation, feels more natural, moves more natural. That's the second part, is women's, how it feels for them, right? Knowing that that it feels like themselves, part of their own tissue, part of their body. And so the way the gel and the shell are manufactured together as one unit, they behave that way, and they move that way like natural tissue. So what I hear a lot, so there's on the complication side, very low complications as a result of the surface and the implant, the gel. You do have the ability to put it on top of the muscle because of the unique surface. But also what for me is most important, I hear from women, is that it feels like their natural tissue, and it feels like them, and they forget they have implants.
Okay.
And so for me, that's the cool part.
And at this point in the United States, what's available? Is it the whole product line available for breast implants before we get into the alternatives? But the majority are available. There's some SKUs we have that are global, that are available different, but the majority of them are. Okay.
So yeah.
And how are you distributing it? Where is it coming from? Do you have a sales staff are you managing it, or how's that work?
Yes, no. Manufacturing is in Costa Rica, ISO certified and MDSAP and all the things that nobody wants to know what they are, but you have to have them.
Yep.
And there's large manufacturing there, and then we built a second manufacturing also down there and distribute globally there. So it is shipped up to the U.S., and we do have a U.S. sales force that was recently hired in the last year that reports under a sales lead who previously was at Allergan.
Yes, our good friend, Jeff.
Yes.
Who I keep trying to get on the program.
He will come.
Yes, I know, he will. Okay. So tell us a little bit about the alternative products, the other breast-related Motiva products, because they're very fascinating. And I know there's a lot of people listening and watching who have no clue what's coming and what you already have internationally. So why don't you share that with us?
Yes, it is exciting. As I mentioned, there's a lot more available globally outside of the U.S. than in the U.S. because of the rigor to get here. And it's good and it's bad. And I will say, as a side note, FDA is aware of this, and they really do want to be viewed as being an innovative country and having access, not being the last to get access to products. So they are making some progress in that regard, and I'm hopeful that will start to catch up with the outside of the U.S. But globally, there's a next gen of an implant, so that the next version of what we have in the U.S. that's even more viscoelastic and moves more natural, like your body. It's even stronger, all the things, but better.
Okay.
And then we have what is exciting for me is the minimally invasive direction that the company is going, and just for aesthetics in general, as you know, and in all of their surgical specialties, minimally invasive is the way that they are all at pretty much
Absolutely.
or going.
Absolutely.
And so the founder, Juan Jose, really working, his brother's plastic surgeon, his father was a plastic surgeon, working with that whole unmet need again and the anatomy, the breast anatomy, and say what are we doing wrong when we're putting implants in right now that's creating issues and inflammation and damage to the tissue and long term. It's great if it looks great for a year or on the table for these women, their results. But what about 5 years later, 6 years later, down the line, 10 years later? How do they look and how do they feel? And so looking at a preservation way of performing the surgery, preserving the tissue and minimally disrupting from the incision all the way to how you create the pocket. So outside of the US, Motiva has what's called the MIA Femtech. It's minimally invasive augmentation. Innovation
That's
aesthetics,
the MIA?
yes. And it is actually injectable through the axilla in a insertion injector. You create a little pocket with an expandable balloon, and then this diamond implant is injected in there. And what's cool about it is it creates that atraumatic expansion of that pocket. So instead of cauterizing through all that tissue, cutting through it and breaking it, essentially, it's expanding that. Almost think of like a nest. It's creating a nest around it.
Uh-huh.
So the connective tissue just supports the implant, and you're not breaking it, breaking that tissue. So it's been globally available, I think now like 4 years. We have a lot of good data. We have a study that we ran, 100 patients that got MRIs. They're great through four years now, and no ruptures, no Capcon, on top of the muscle, all of them. And what's also that I can't believe I missed this, they were done under local anesthesia with sedation. So the whole procedure is about 15 minutes in the OR, allowing.
What's the diamond implant filled with?
It's the same as the ergonomics implant. It is just shaped, so think of kind of like a diamond, an ellipse, so that even if it were to say flip or turn, you wouldn't know. It's the same gel. It's the ergonomics 2, so it's the next version that is available globally, but not quite in the U.S. So that's something on the pipeline for the U.S.
Okay. And this is done under local anesthesia with some sedation through the armpit or the axilla. Mm-hmm. And there must be limitations on the size.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. At this point, I believe the largest is about 200 cc's, but because of the shape and placing it on top of the muscle, it does look like, say, a 280.
Okay. Under the muscle.
Over the yeah.
It looks like a
Correct.
280 in a dual plane
Correct.
or submuscular.
Correct. Exactly. And what is the women that have been participated in the study have reported 1 to 2 bra cups up. So it was designed initially for the Asia Pacific patient, maybe a little bit for the U.S., but more on the women that are active. They weren't seeking breast implants. They were seeking, they wear push-up bras. They do compensatory behavior to accentuate, but they don't want that big look. They just want a push-up bra. Mm-hmm. They want kind of that restoration of the tissue they had 20 years ago before kids. And so it creates that 1 to 2 cups up kind of an effect.
In a fraction of the time with no general anesthesia.
Right.
What's the anticipated approval date for the FDA?
So it's interesting that you're now the analysts. This is the analyst's number one question. When's Mia coming? Okay, great. You got FDA approval. Now when is Mia coming?
Oh.
No, so the first step, which is a good progression, is actually the tools to create that without the injector. So doing what's called a channel to make the channel, and then the balloon. That will be the first step with using traditional implants with a funnel. So that will be soon.
Okay.
And it's the same concept because you're doing that expansion and creating that nest.
Right.
And so that will be something that in 2026, probably early, we'll see how that goes, but that will be launched. And then from there, the MIA would follow. But there's a couple steps to do in between with FDA.
Okay. So the technique or the the devices will be approved, do you think, by early 2026? Do you think we'll have the implant by 27?
For the preservation, it's called Preservé surgery.
Okay.
This kind of hybrid step, yes,
Okay.
yes. But Mia with the injector, that we're still in discussions and with figuring out how it's classified on the
With our
product.
FDA.
Yeah.
Is it commercially available in the other countries
Yeah.
right now?
Yes. Europe.
So if a woman wanted to have it, she could go to Europe.
Yeah, Europe.
How about in Japan?
Costa Rica, yes, Japan. It's in a lot of different countries.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What other products might Motiva have that they're looking at, and what categories, if you can tell us?
Yeah, I think one of the exciting areas is again following on the minimally invasive line is the gluteal, addressing that. So it's a challenge on the mortality rate, right, and then also just the complication, just in general, and whether either you're doing what do you do when you're doing Did you do gluteal ever?
I did a little bit, not much.
So either they're implants that are kind of hard, right, or the BBL, kind of the large scale fat grafting. That
Sure,
is
I've done both.
Very dangerous. It can be.
Yes.
And so there is an implant designed that's somewhat similar to very similar to the injectable diamond, but for gluteal, and doing that through an injector, one incision kind of in the center, and also under a little bit stronger local with kind of a block, but it's instead of what was typically hours, in the OR, this is very similar, like a 20 to 30 minute procedure. And we have patients now at, I believe, a year and a half out that are in the study. And so that's underway. It's a little bit further off probably, but it's an alternative for those that want, just a little, as you know, with the GLP uprise, there's been all of the fallout of
so to speak.
not only the face, but the breast and the butt, right? And so both of these products, I think, really do, these types of products and this direction of products really do address that market.
That's excellent. And you are a sponsor of the Aesthetic Society, is that correct?
Yes.
Motiva, not you, Roz,
Always,
but
right.
Yeah,
Motiva is.
Motiva.
I've always been, the companies I've been a part of have always been.
You've been a consistent and loyal supporter of the Aesthetic Society. As a past president and as the chairman of industry relations, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you for that ongoing support across all the companies. You've worked for more breast implant companies than anyone I know.
I think I have the title. I don't know.
Pretty sure every company.
Yeah. No. Yes.
Even the same companies with different names. But
Correct.
It's remarkable to me.
Yeah.
And recently I was made aware of your ongoing support of the Premier Partnership program of this exciting. I want to publicly thank you and JJ and the people at Motiva. Thank you very much.
Of course.
This
We're honored and proud.
program is dedicated to the Aesthetic
Yes.
Society and to patient safety.
Yes, and that's our goal too. I think this has been my goal. Each time I've moved companies, it's been for a better reason, a better product or technology, but also addressing the patient needs. And so, what is amazing in working with JJ, with Juan Jose, is he really has this vision of normalizing breast aesthetics, so that there's options, safe options for women, that aren't stigmatized. You don't feel like you're, I'm getting a breast implant. You're just doing an enhancement. And it can be quick if you want. You have options. And then democratizing breast reconstruction. Because as you know, globally, the access is very different. The awareness on testing, on prevention, on and then once you are diagnosed, the limited number of women that can get access to procedures, or when they do, it's what's called like an amputation surgery. And so there's no reconstruction. So we've supported, I'm actually going down next week with Mission Plasticos, which I'm sure you're familiar with them.
Absolutely.
Or in 2 weeks, I think, to a mission in Mexico on that donated some implants to do, but for women with that had just basically amputated, and to help restore their sense of self and so,
wholeness.
Yeah. So for me, that's the goal. I will continue kind of in this, hopefully in this whole realm, and working with people like you and amazing people that make a difference, but really for the women and the access and the women's health essentially.
Well, that's wonderful. You've been in this business now since you graduated from UC Santa Barbara, and when you wanted to hang around Santa Barbara after graduating, and you haven't left.
No.
It's amazing to me. You have such perspective because you've been involved in it for clearly over 20 years. Well, it's been wonderful to have you here today. Are there
Thank
any
you.
other things you want to share with your adoring fans? Everybody knows you in the
Aw.
industry, and you know that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. No, I just thank you, everyone. It's been a wild and fun ride, and and it's been great to do a lot of it with you, Grant. So
Well,
thank you.
it's been fun for sure. We've worked with a lot of the same people and through all the companies, and it's been a blast.
Yes.
And I've really enjoyed working with you, and I appreciate you coming here today
course.
and being a part of the show.
Of course.
And I'd like to get JJ back here
Yes.
for in studio
Yes.
show.
He says-
We were able to interview him briefly in Austin. I'll give him my regards, and we would love to interview him here in beautiful Manhattan Beach, California.
Yes. He says hello, and he would be happy to do that. For
Okay,
Sure.
well, stay in touch with me and let me know when he's coming
Of course.
stateside, and he'll be in the LA area.
Of course, we'll do.
Great. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today on today's exciting episode of The Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business. And as you heard, Roz is a mover and a shaker, and she knows breast implants, let me tell you. She's worked with all the companies. Thank you very much for joining us. We have new programs every Tuesday. We'd love it if you would sign up and register on the YouTube and become a fan. And we look forward to seeing you every week. Take care.